Today we are looking at the Winsor Newton watercolor chart of their colors. This is their dot card. This is new to me, this dot card. So we'll be looking at each one of these. I'm going to go ahead and swatch them out, and then we'll look closely at each color. Okay. So the first one up is lemon yellow. Now, if you're familiar with Daniel Smith's dot cards, they're quite a bit larger. Let me just show you a comparison. This is what the Daniel Smith dot cards look like. The dots of paint are much more significant. These are the tiniest little dots, but of course the Daniel Smith color charts cost quite a bit more, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. I am just using a 1/2 inch Princeton watercolor brush here. So the first one was lemon yellow. The second one is bismuth yellow, and we'll go over all the transparency and everything once we get this done. This is cadmium lemon. And the one thing I don't like about these is they don't put any kind of a black mark. They tell you whether it's transparent or not, but they don't really show you at a glance. This is cadmium free lemon. This is Winsor lemon. I don't use a lot of Winsor Newton, but it's so easy for my students to find it that I find that I have to give them the choices of being able to order Winsor Newton. I like their paints. They're just not my very favorite. They're good paints, though. They're good professional quality paints. I don't like their Cotman series at all. That's their student grade paint. That was Winsor Yellow. This was Winsor Lemon. This is Lemon Yellow Deep, which doesn't look very deep, actually. And I have this on a slant, so the water is going to collect a little bit down at the bottom, but that's always how I do my dot cards. And I'm just dipping my brush in the water. This is Oriolan. Oriolan is also cobalt yellow. Next one is one that I do use of their paints, and that's transparent yellow. It's quite a nice yellow. The next one is cadmium yellow. Let's see what that says. Pale. Cadmium yellow pale. I started my art career like 40 years ago with Winsor Newton and Daniel Smith. Okay, let's move over here. This is cadmium free yellow pale. I don't understand why they make all these colors that are so similar, but I'm sure there's a reason. Here's Turner yellow. This is a nice warmer yellow. Very nice. One reason I wanted to get this dot chart and to see, compare Winsor Newton's colors, this is New Gamboge, is so that I can possibly use more of their paints in my classes, because it's very difficult to get some of these other paint brands. This is cadmium yellow. And of course, cadmium colors are toxic, but you just have to watch your animals and that you don't eat around them or drink your water by accident, which, believe it or not, I have done. That's cadmium-free yellow. This is warm yellow deep. No, Winsor yellow deep, I'm sorry. I like their Winsor colors. Those I do use those in my classes, the Winsor yellow, and they're a Winsor blue, and they're Winsor red. Okay, this is Indian yellow, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, boy, the print is really small on this chart. I like that it folds open, but you know, you have to open it. If you fold it back on itself, you'll smear all the colors, so remember that. This is cadmium yellow deep. And they do have a card of all the explanation up here. It says they have 109 colors in their tubes. They have 108 half pans. They have 24 in their 37 milliliter tubes. And those are quite a good value, those 37 milliliter tubes. I do buy those whenever they're on sale. That was cadmium yellow deep. And your cadmiums, of course, are opaque. Let's see here. They do re-wet nicely. Some dot cards do not, but these do. Here's cadmium orange. Nice color. I do have that on my palette. Okay, we have over here cadmium-free orange. That was cadmium red deep. This one is cadmium-free red deep. I do actually have that cadmium red deep on my palette. I don't use it. Boy, that's a pretty color. When you're doing these dot cards, be sure the water is pretty clean that you're using. Otherwise, you're going to contaminate the results. This is Winsor red. I do use this one in my classes, mostly because it's just easy to find. It's just a pyro red, a 254 pigment. This is red door, rose door, which is a older pigment, I think. It's been around a long time. It's harder to re-wet, as you can see. Doesn't re-wet, and it's very, doesn't have much tinting strength at all. This is quinacridone red. Quinacridone red is a perfect mid red that leans a little bit on the pink side, but if you can only choose one red, it's probably a good one to have on your palette, because it can go either way. Here's Winsor red deep. That's probably a 264, but we'll check and see. Lovely color. This is permanent alizarin crimson. The original PR 83 alizarin crimson. Carmine, permanent carmine. I do use carmine. Not their brand though, not Winsor Newton. It is on my palette. It's a nice, vibrant pinky red. Permanent rose. Rose Madder Genuine. The matters, again, are usually, I think, plant-based and not as light-fast as some of these more permanent pigments. Also harder to re-wet. I don't use the lake colors or the madder colors. Okay, Opera Rose. Speaking of fugitive, Opera Rose is probably the most fugitive pigment out there other than the alizarin crimson. I don't use it. It's a lovely color. And I guess if you use illustration, you could use it. But if you're doing permanent art, I would not. Quinacridone Magenta. It's a color I do use. And I have used Winsor Newton's. Any quinacridone magenta is probably good. They're all about the same. Permanent magenta. Now, this one I discovered recently. Actually put it on my palette. Then I took it off. So it's very close to a Quin magenta. So I'm actually debating that one. It's kind of weak tinting strength on that. Cobalt Violet. I have this pigment. I have had it for probably 30 years. It is the worst pigment on my palette. I don't use it. I actually took it off my palette for this very reason that you can see. It's just the tinting strength is nothing on this. It's very hard to get anything out of that. This is, okay, this is Permanent Mauve. That's not a color I use. It's also fairly hard to re-wet. It's not re-wetting well at all. And again, it's very weak tinting strength. This is Quinacridone Violet. Better. Ultramarine Violet. Winsor Newton has a nice range of color choices. This is another one that's really weak and hard to re-wet. But that's true of a lot of these ultramarine violets. This is Winsor. Okay, can't read that. This is Dioxazine Winsor Violet. Okay. And that's your standard Dioxazine Violet. Nice, nice color. They're in Danthrene Blue, or in Danthrone, I guess. They're saying in Danthrone Blue. That's a PB60 pigment. That's a nice one there. This is Cobalt Blue Deep, one of my very favorite colors. I've never tried Winsor Newton's Cobalt Blue Deep, but that's the one I use is Da Vinci. This is a nice one. I need to stop and clean my water.